Om.
Om Shuklam Bharadharam Vishnum Shashivarnam Chaturbhujam Prasannavadanam Dhyayet Sarva Vignopashantaye. Om Sada Shiva Samarambham Shankaracharya Madhyamam Asmadacharya Paryantam Vande Guru Paramparam. Om Parthaya Pratibodhitam Bhagavata Narayanena Swayam Vyasena Gratitam Purana Munina Madhye Mahabharatam Advaitamrutavarshiniim Bhagavatim Ashtadashaധ്യായിനീം Amba Tvamanusandathami Bhagavad-gīte Bhavatveshinīm Yam Brahma Varunendra Rudra Marutaha Stunvanti Divyaistavaihi Vedai Sangapadakramopanishadaihi Gayanti Yam Samagaha Dhyanavasthita Tadgatena Manasa Pashyanti Yam Yoginaha Yasyantam Navidussura Suraganaha Devaya Tasmai Namaha.
Bhagavad Gita, 18th chapter, concluding Bhasya, Upasamhara Bhasya. Please read verse 66. Sarvadharma. Sarvadharman parityajya.
Sarvadharman parityajya mamekam sharanam vraja aham tva sarva papebhyaha mokshayishyami ma shuchaha.
So far, it was proved that the kartrutva, the doership on the part of Atma is avidyaka. It is effected by avidya, ignorance of oneself, therefore false in nature, not truly so. The different doubts were considered and answered to prove this fact. One more doubt is now considered. Some people say that Atma, by mere presence, makes all these Deha, Indriya, Mana, Buddhi act. Therefore, the doership on the Atma, part of Atma is Mukhya, primarily so, not secondary, not because of ignorance. And the person who considers so gives some examples also. So that is refuted and shown that karmas, actions on the part of body, mind, intellect, etc., cannot be mukhya, cannot be primarily so. Let us see now. Yattu manyase,
यत्तु मन्यसे स्वयं अव्याप्रियमाणः अपि आत्मा सन्निधि मात्रेण करोति तदेव च मुख्यं कर्तृत्वम् आत्मनः.
if you consider so, means Siddhanti tells the other person, sir, if you consider so, what is that? Yadi manyase. If you consider so, what you get? Atma swayam avyapriyamana. Atma swayam on its own. Avyapriyamana means na vyapriyamana, though actionless. Atma, though on its own, doesn't do any karma, doesn't do any action. It is actionless. Even then, if you think that sannidhi matrena karoti, Atma does the karma by mere presence, and that doing the karma by mere presence itself is the main doership on the part of Atma. Tadevacha Atmanaha Mukhyam Kartrutva. That itself. What is that itself? Conducting the actions, karmas, by mere presence on the part of Atma, that itself is what? Atmanaha Mukhyam Kartrutvam is the primary doership, the main doership on the part of Atma. So this, if you consider so, for which he may give example like this. Explain with the examples. Continue. Yatha.
यथा राजा युध्यमानेषु योधेषु युध्यते इति प्रसिद्धं स्वयं अयुध्यमानः अपि सन्निधानात् एव.
Yatha, just here is an illustration. Raja yudhyamaneshu yodeshu yudhyate iti prasiddham. Prasiddham is well known. What is it? Raja yudhyate. The king fights the battle. Actually, who is fighting? Yodeshu yudhyamaneshu. His army, his warriors are fighting. It is said the king is fighting. King is sitting in the palace. Warriors are fighting. The army is fighting. It is said the king is fighting. This is what we find in the world, such usages. Karoti. Yudhyate iti prasiddham. Well known. When swayam ayudhyamana api. Swayam, the king on its own, actually is not fighting the battle. He is in the palace only. Maja karo. Army is fighting, and yet, what is it? It said that the king is fighting. Swayam ayudhyamanaha api. How? Sannidhanadeva. By mere presence. And not only that, even the result is attributed to the king. Continue.
जितः पराजितः च इति च.
So this also considered. What is it? If the army wins the battle, Raja Jitaha, the king won the battle. Suppose the army is defeated, Parajitaha cha, the king lost the battle. See? They are fighting. You said he is fighting. The result, victory or defeat. Attributed to whom? The king. Means, even though king on its own is not fighting, by his mere presence, the war goes on, battle goes on, and it is attributed to him. Again, the same thing is explained from the standpoint of that commander-in-chief, army chief. Here, Yodha, warriors. Here, the army chief. Continue.
तथा सेनापतिः वा च एव करोति.
Tatha, just in the case of the king, we have seen also Senapati, chief of army. What? You have to make an adhyara there. Swayam Ayudhyamanaha. Swayam Ayudhyamana. This chief of army sitting at the headquarters. And there the soldiers are fighting. So also, Tatha Senapati, though not fighting, Vacha eva karoti. Vacha eva add yuddham. By mere statement, order. By mere order. He fights the battle. Like that, in the olden days, it is said, one retired army officer happened to go to the border, our Pakistan border, Kashmir area. Those days, government was different. Suppose they fire Pakistan, whether these people have to fire or not, they have to get the order from Delhi. Chief of army, but chief of army considered the defense minister. We see how much time is that, etc. And if they say yes, fire back. Otherwise, keep quiet. So he said it was like this. How is now that army said, you want to see? He triggered three things. Dhada, firing. Pakistan side. He is sitting, there was no cause, but just to show him, we have got this power now. Right now we can take the decision. He just fired 3 rounds. Like that. So the army chief is giving a command, order, they fire. But he is not fighting. Like king, it is attributed to army chief also. That is Tatha Vacha eva. By words means by order, command. Yuddham karoti. He fights the battle. Not only that, kriya phala sambandhascha rajnaha senapate cha drishtaha. Continue.
क्रियाफल संबंधश्च राज्ञः सेनापतेः च दृष्टः.
Kriya phala. What is kriya here? Yuddha. Yuddha phala sambandhascha. Connection to the result of the battle, the war, whether victory or defeat. He is seen to be belonging to whom? Rajnaha Senapate cha drishtaha. It is seen to be the victory or the defeat of king or the chief of the army. One example. Another example is being given, a different type. Continue.
यथा च ऋत्विक कर्म यजमानस्य.
Yatha cha, just as Ritvik and Kritam karma. The karma done by the sacrificial priest belonging to different Vedas. This Ritvik karma, Yajamanasya, you have to add there, Kritam bhavati, means Yajamana Kritam bhavati. it happens to be done by the Yajamana. Yajamana means the person who actually arranges the yaga, sacrifice, to get its result. He spends, he pays dakshina to the Ritvik, etc. He simply doesn't do. Only he is there at the time of the sankalpa. And of course, at the final ahuti, he only has to put. Except he doesn't do. All this is done by who? Ritviks. But what he said, this Yajamana did the yaga. So, yathacha Ritvik kritam karma. Ritvik karma means Madhyama pada lopa samasa. The karma done by Ritviks, the priest, Yajamanasya, means Yajamana kritam bhavati. Happens to be done by the Yajamana. Continue.
तथा देहादीनां कर्म आत्मकृतं स्यात्.
Similarly, this is illustration. So also, Dehadinam kritam karma. Dehadinam karma is Dehadinam kritam karma. The karma done by the body, mind, etc. Atma kritam syat should be the karma done by the Atma. Though Atma doesn't do it because its presence, body, etc. do, and therefore the karma done by the body, etc. happens with the karma of the Atma. Therefore, Atma is the Mukhya Karta. This is what the Purvapaksha has to say. Not only that, for the, with respect to result also. Continue.
तत्फलस्य आत्मगामित्वात्.
Tatphalasya. Dehadina kritam karma phalasya. The result of karma done by the body, etc. Atmagamitva. It is something which applies to or gets related to Mukhya Atma. So that one more example. You know why one more example? After the he will be asked, sir, king etc. didn't fight, that is true, but is paying the salary for the armies. So it is done by him. Yajamana, yes, doesn't do, but Yajamana is giving dakshina and purchasing the result. So this argument is going to come. Therefore, one more example. What is the magnet? Magnet on its own attracts to itself the iron filings, the pieces of iron. It doesn't ask, nor does it pay. By simply present, it does. This is the third example. Why it is given, we'll see afterwards. Continue.
यथा वा भ्रामकस्य लोह भ्रामयितृत्वात् अव्यापृतस्य एव मुख्यम एव कर्तृत्वं तथा च आत्मनः इति.
Yathava, or Brahmakasya loha brahmaitritva avyapratasya eva. Take Advaya this way. Avyapratasya eva Brahmakasya loha brahmaitritva. मुख्यम एव कर्तृत्वम तथा च आत्मनः इति. आत्मनः add मुख्यम एव कर्तृत्वम. See, in the case of a magnet, which is what? Avyapratasya, which doesn't do vyapara. It doesn't act, means inactive, actionless. In the case of a magnet, it simply is inactive or actionless. Brahmakasya, Brahmaka is what? Magnet. Loha Brahmaitritva. What does it do? It just makes the pieces of iron move, attracts it, right? Move. It can make move also. So therefore, see, whom does the action go? Magnet. If magnet were not there, they will not get attracted. So even though it doesn't do, the action is attributed to magnet, is mukhya. So therefore, mukhyam eva kartartvam. The doership on the Atma, part of Atma is what? Mukhyam eva. See, why this is given? Because if king were not to pay the salaries, if Yajamana were not to pay the dakshinas, then it could have been said, see, just by presence it does like the magnet. So therefore, this magnet example cannot be applied to king or the Yajamana. They pay, they hire their services. Therefore, it is what attributes the king or the Yajamana or the chief of the army. Tathacha, similarly as in the case of magnet, Atmanaha, in the case of Atma, what? Mukhyam eva kartrutvam. The doership on the part of Atma is mukhya. What you said as avidyaka, because of avidya, or other person said gauna, not correct. Mukhya. And because mukhya, you can't do anything at all. What jnana can do that? Jnana can remove ignorance. It can set right or right false things. But the real thing, it can't do anything at all. So therefore, iti che, that is, if this is so, iti, now the answer starts. This is the Purvapaksha. Continue.
Tat asat.
Tat, that statement of yours, attributing the karmas of Deha, Mana, Buddhi, etc. to Atma, saying Atma by mere presence does it, asat. Wrong, sir. It is not true. It is wrong. How? Listen. Continue.
Apurvataha karakatva prasangat.
Akurvataha karakatva. See, if we hold what you said is correct, a person who has not done anything will become the doer. Somebody murdered someone. This person is innocent. It will become that he is the murderer. Means the karma of anyone can be attributed to anyone. Such a thing is not there. So, akurvataha, na kurvataha. In the case of the person who doesn't do it, karakatva prasanga, a situation will arise that he happens to be the doer of it. Now, if you say, no, sir, doership are of different types. How? One, doing the karma by oneself. Number two, getting the karma done by someone else. Therefore, it is possible, if you say so, continue.
कारकम अनेक प्रकारम इति चेत न.
If you say no, sir, karakam. Karakam means the status of doing the karma, the agents of action, doership. Aneka prakaratva. Aneka prakar means no ek aneka, two also is aneka. Or two types. Iti chet, that is why doing oneself or getting done through someone else. Iti chet, therefore it is possible. Answer is no. Not so. How it is not so? That your statement that the king, the chief of army, or the yajamana do it by mere presence is wrong, because they are actively involved in getting the work done through them by paying salaries, by hiring them, paying them dakshina, etc. And therefore, they happen to be the main doers, though they do not do on their part. You would have been right, provided, as you told in the case of the what? Brahmaka, magnet. If king without paying salary, etc., yajamana without paying dakshina, etc., by mere presence were able to get the things done, what you said is correct, which is not the case at all. So that is now explained. Continue.
राजप्रभृतीनां मुख्यस्य अपि कर्तृत्वस्य दर्शनात्.
Raja Prabhutina, because in the case of king, etc., what is that? Mukhyasya kartritvasya api darshana. The main doership also is seen. Maybe for seeming purpose, they were not actually involved in the battle. Means they were not actually fighting the battle, but they are what involved. How? Darshan. How is it so? If they are not fighting, how they are involved? Because they are paying the salaries, etc. It is explained further. Continue. Raja
राजा राजा तावत् स्वव्यापारेण अपि युध्यते.
Tavat, at first instance. Raja, the king god. Swavaparena api mudyudhyate. Swavaparena. Not true. Not true. Raja may fight by himself getting engaged in the battle. That's true. But here, what is that? There, by some action. What is the action? Paying the salaries, etc. So therefore, because he pays salaries, etc., he has hired the employed those people, and therefore the main doership goes to king only. If they were not employed, they will not fight the battle. The king is responsible in employing them, and therefore he is the main doer. So what is that mukhya kartrutva on the part of the Raja, that he fight the battle? This is what it is. Continue.
योधानां योधयितृत्वे धनदाने च मुख्यम एव कर्तृत्वम्.
This is his main action. What is it? Yodhanam yodhayitritve, making the warriors fight the battle. And dhanadane, in giving the salaries. Mukhyameva kartrutvam. Who did it directly? King is paying them. So he is directly involved in that. Therefore, continue.
तथा जय पराजय फलोपभोगे
Tatha. So also, Jaya Parajaya Falopabhogi. Mukhyameva Kartrutva. Just as because he hires or pays, etc., even though physically he is not fighting, the main fighting it gets attributed to him only. In the same manner, Jaya, victory, Parajaya, defeat, Falopabhoga, enjoying or suffering. He won the battle, he is what? Enjoying it. He lost the battle, he is suffering. So that is Bhogeta. What? Mukhyameva. That Bhoktrutva also is Mukhya. Because he is involved in that directly. This is the case of the king or the chief of army. King only is taken. Now the example of Yajamana, how Yajamana, though actually not doing the sacrifice, is the main karta, is explained. Continue.
तथा यजमानस्य अपि प्रधान त्यागे दक्षिणादाने च मुख्यम एव कर्तृत्वम्.
Similarly, Yajamanasyapi, in the case of Yajamana, who actually performs the yaga on his behalf. Actual conducting yaga may be Ritviks, but one who is the doer of it is who? The Yajamana. In this case, there is Mukhya Kartrutva. Main doership is there where? Pradhana Tyagi. Pradhana Tyagi means while offering the Mukhya Ahuti, main Ahuti, you say you call it Purna Ahuti. That is the main offering. That Yajamana has to do that, not Ritviks. Of course, Ritvi will chant, etc., and they will make everything ready and mean, but actually offering has to be done by the Yajamana. You see some sacrifices. Again, Dakshina Dani, offering the Dakshinas, the price for their performance. So that is the Danecha. Mukhyameva Kartrutva. Is directly done by mainly by who? Yajamana only. Therefore, says, saying that though they physically don't do, it is as good as done by them is secondary way, but actually Mukhya Kartruva goes to them all. Continue.
तस्मात् अव्यापृतस्य कर्तृत्वोपचारः यः सः गौणः इति अवगम्यते.
So therefore, because they are not actually, Yajaman is not actually doing the yaga in terms of conducting it. Tasmat अव्यापृतस्य यः कर्तृत्वोपचारः सः गौणः इति अवगम्यते. Avagamyate, it is understood. It appears what? Avyaprutasya yajamanasya. The yajamana who actually is not conducting the sacrifice in terms of actual process. Yet, the kartrutva upachara, whatever yaha kartrupachara, whatever the use of the status of doer or the word that he is karta. So means actually fighting or doing. Saha gaunaha iti avagamit. It is actually what understood to be gauna in terms of actual doing. But they have done something because of which they are the main doers. Now, you gave the example of the opponent gave the example of the magnet and therefore said, just as in the presence of magnet, the iron crystal get attracted, therefore that attracting function of attracting is karma is on the part of magnet only mukhya. So also by mere presence, the king or the yajamana does this. This can hold good only if king were to get the battle fought without remunerating them, without paying salaries, without hiring them, yajamana without paying dakshina, etc., then you can say what? By mere presence, it is being done, and therefore the main doership goes to the king or the yajamana, but which is not the case. Continue.
यदि मुख्यं कर्तृत्वं स्वव्यापारलक्षणं न उपलभ्यते राजयजमानप्रभृतीनां तदा सन्निधिमात्रेण अपि कर्तृत्वं मुख्यं परिकल्प्येत यथा भ्रामकस्य लोहभ्रमणेन.
So the illustration of magnet can apply to king or yajamana only when if this were the case. Take the Anvaya. Yadi Raja Yajamana Prabhutina. Yadi Raja Yajamana Prabhutina Swavyapara Lakshanam Mukhyam, second word. Mukhyam Kartrutvam na upalabhyate tada sannidhi matrena api kartrutvam mukhyam parikalpeta yatha brahmakasya loha brahmanena. The attributing the main doership to king or Yajamana, without doing anything, like in the case of magnet, would have been attributed if the king were not to hire the service of the army, or the Yajamana were not to hire the service of the Ritviks by paying Dakshina. Then yes, is what? Without doing, doership comes. But that's not the case at all. So therefore your example of magnet doesn't hold good here. Yadi, in case, Raja Yajamana Prabhutina, in the case of persons such as king and Yajamana, in the case, Swavyapara Lakshanam Mukhyam Kartrutvam na upalabhyate. If in that case, this Mukhya Kartrutva, main doership by doing something on their own, such as paying the salaries, paying the dakshinas, etc., were not seen. That is Swavyapara Lakshanam, that giving the salary, etc., dakshina, etc. Na upalabhyeta mukhyam kartrutam. See, paying the salary is a main doership. Paying the dakshina is main doership. If these were not seen on their part, na upalabhyeta, tada, in that case, what? What you said would have been correct. What is that you had said? Sannidhi matrena api, even by presence, as in the case of magnet, whatever kartrutva, the doership that gets attributed is what? Mukhyam parikalpeta, can be taken as the main doership. Without, of course, main doership, without doing anything. Just as the illustration given by you, yatha brahmakasya loha brahmanena, the magnet making the iron pieces move by mere presence. But in the case of king Yajamana, this doesn't hold good because they have done some mukhya main karma. What is their main karma? Pay the salaries, pay this dakshina. So therefore, such case, what is such case? King or the Yajamana, by mere presence, without involving in any karma, getting the things done is not possible. Means, king is not paying the salary, Yajamana is not paying the dakshinas, and yet things happen. Then you say by what? Presence, which is not the case at all. Continue.
न तथा राजयजमानादीनां स्वव्यापारः न उपलभ्यते.
This tatha, and in the case of what is it? Example of magnet. Tatha raja yajamanadinam swavyapara, their own activities on the part of king or the yajamana. What activities? Not fighting the battle, but paying the salary. Not actually doing the sayaga, but paying the dakshina. If these were not seen. Raja yajamanadam swavyapara na upalabhyate. तथा राजयजमानादीनां स्वव्यापारः न उपलभ्यते इति न iti are there na double negatives are there. You can't say that on the part of king or the jamana no activities on their own are not available, means they are available. May not be fighting the battle, but some karma he has done. May not be actually doing the yaga, but paying dakshina has done. So therefore, you can't say that it just by mere presence it has taken place. See, तथा राज यजमानादीनां स्वव्यापारः न उपलभ्यते. Add iti, go to the first word, na. It is not so. What is not so? That there are no actual karmas on the part of king or the yajamana. No, they are there. Like paying salary, paying dakshina, etc. are there. And therefore, it cannot be said that by just mere presence without doing anything, they get attributed, the karma gets attributed to them, cannot be said. So therefore, in the case of king or the yajamana, two for that, two things are there. One, not actually fighting the battle, and yet defeat or victory attributed to him, or that he is fighting the battle. Yajamana, not actually performing the sacrifice, and yet doing it. One thing. Other, actually doing something. What is it? Paying salary, etc., paying dakshina, etc. So therefore, if paying salaries, etc., paying dakshina, etc., is not considered, then it is gauna. It is. Continue.
तस्मात् सन्निधि मात्रेण अपि कर्तृत्वं गौणम् एव.
Therefore, because the reasons given so far, sannidhi matrena api kartrutvam, that doership by mere proximity or proxy is what? Gaunameva, secondary and not mukhya. If you don't consider what actually they have done, like paying the salaries or paying the dakshina, you simply qualify that you have not fought the battle and still he is fighting the battle. You have not fought the battle, still he got victory or defeat. Secondary, only this. But you can't do that. Mukhya kartrutva is there in terms of salary, etc. And if the doership on the part of king, Yajamana, or our illustrated Atma. If it are what? Gauna, as you say, without taking into account their mukhya karma, paying salary or paying dakshana. Then what will happen? The result of those karmas also will be secondary. And when it becomes secondary, what is that? The Gauna doer cannot do the karma of the Mukhya doer. Continue.
तथा च सति तत्फल संबंधः अपि गौणः एव स्यात्.
Tatha cha sati, if the kartrutva, doership on the part of the king or the Yajamana, where Gauna, secondary and not Mukhya, then what happens? Tatha sati, if that is so, tat phala sambandha api. Tat phala sambandha means Gauna kartuhu karma phala sambandha. The connection of the secondary doer with actual karma phalas. What will happen to that? Gauna eva syat. It also will become secondary. Now tell me, king winning or defeating is secondary. Yajamana getting the heaven, etc., because sacrifice is secondary? No. So therefore, if it were Gauna, this also become Gauna, secondary only. Why? The reason is, continue.
न गौणेन मुख्यं कार्यं निर्वर्त्यते.
Because the reason is, Gaunena ad kartra mukhyam karyam na nivartyate. By a secondary entity, the main karma cannot be accomplished. A secondary rule, a secondary entity cannot do the main karma, main action. So therefore, your contention that Atma, though inactive or actionless, is the Mukhya Karta because it is done through the Deha, etc., like king fighting the battle through the army. That your stand is wrong. So he concludes now this discussion so far. Read.
तस्मात् असत् एव एतत् गीयते. देहादीनां व्यापारेण अव्यापृतः आत्मा कर्ता भोक्ता च स्यात् इति.
Tasma, because the discussion was conducted so far. Asad eva etat giyate. This is what you say is what? Wrong. What is that? Namely, dehadinam vyaparena. By the vyapara, activities, actions on the part of deha, adi for mana, buddhi, etc. Avyaprataha atma. The atma who is avyaprataha, na vyaprataha, not engaged in action or karma, means actionless karma, actionless atma. Avyaprata atma, actionless atma. Karta bhokta cha iti na syat. That is, atma becomes the doer or enjoyer or sufferer because of the karmas on the part of deha, mana, buddhi, etc. is what? Wrong. You cannot hold good. You cannot say that to be so. Means secondarily, Atma cannot be the doer, etc., and also the experiencer of results thereby, good or bad. He means enjoyer or sufferer, he can't be. When this has been proved, what we told you earlier, that the doership is product of avidya, it can go in the wake of knowledge, holds good. Continue.
Kranti nimittam tu sarvam upapadyate.
But Bhranti Nimittam, on account of erroneous notion, wrong notion, Sarvam Upapadyate. Everything is possible. Means such things can be possible if the Bhranti, Brahma, error, the product of ignorance is there. For which examples are given. Continue.
Yatha swapne mayayam cha evam.
Just as Swapne in the dream, what all takes place? Possible. Why? You have forgotten yourself. You have forgotten yourself, the maker. Anything can be seen there in the dream. Or Mayayam cha evam. In the case of Maya, here Maya is magic. You know, you have seen magician, they keep a little girl on the table. And the magician cuts it open stomach. Blood is gushing and shows the intestines. After no time, the girl sits on the table. No wound, not even scar of the wound. Magic. Magics are of different types. One is hand trick. This is not hand trick. This can be a hand trick, but more on money, mantra, aushadha. Because certain stones, certain herbs possible, by certain mantras also it is possible. By some mantras also it is possible. So therefore, what is not there is seen, which is we can verify from our worldly experience and also from such cases of this dream or the magic. We'll continue.
स्वस्ति प्रजाभ्यः परिपालयन्ताम् न्यायेन मार्गेण महीं महिषाः गोब्राह्मणेभ्यः शुभमस्तु नित्यम् लोकाः समस्ताः सुखिनो भवन्तु काले वर्षतु पर्जन्यः पृथिवी सस्यशालिनी देशोऽयं शोभरहितः ब्राह्मणाः सन्तु निर्भयाः ॐ सर्वे भवन्तु सुखिनः सर्वे सन्तु निरामयाः सर्वे भद्राणि पश्यन्तु मा कश्चित् दुःखभाग् भवेत् असतो मा सद्गमय तमसो मा ज्योतिर्गमय मृत्योर्मा अमृतं गमय ॐ पूर्णमदः पूर्णमिदं पूर्णात् पूर्णमुदच्यते पूर्णस्य पूर्णमादाय पूर्णमेवावशिष्यते ॐ शान्ति शान्ति शान्तिः हरिः ॐ श्रीगुरुभ्यो नमः हरिः ॐ